Alright, I'm gonna start this video off by saying that currently recording while my brother has his kid over, and he tends to make a lot of noise, and my younger brother tends to make a lot of noise, and my family just tends to make a lot of noise. So if you hear anything in the background, it's probably that. I've been having a bunch of people ask me for different builds, for different classes, for the Log Horizon TRPG for a long time now, and I haven't put out any videos recently. Most of it was because I didn't want to make I guess, sort of a meta for this game. I really enjoy this game, and I didn't want something that's really unique like this to turn into like a cookie cutter like kind of play style, where if you're going to play as an assassin, you have to build this way because you'll do the most damage or you're the most effective assassin, right? I like to see what people build. I like to engage in the discussion of, like, averages and such or what have you. And I also like role playing. So even if it's not the most effective choice, sometimes I like picking it just because it has a fancy for my eye. So this is mostly going to be about Swashbuckler, as you can see on the screen. I have a couple of different things up that I'm going to talk about. Um, so the first thing about Swashbuckler is it's a mostly physical damage dealer. It's part of the Weapon Master archetype, and it is a similar role to Assassin. There are some noticeable differences from Assassin, however. There's a lot less usage of decay and the various debuffs that can be applied, but you do share some of that as well. Swashbuckler also has a unique choice in its character creation that you can either take Opening Gambit or Dance Macabre. And that's something that's unique to only a few classes in Log Horizon TRPG, is the choice of being able to choose the three generic skills you get at the beginning. One is you obviously get the Weapon Master trait for the extra hit die, invaluable to DPS because you need to hit to do damage. The other one is a very nice ability that is similar to the other DPSs, which allows you to insta-kill mobs. This one, though, at the cost of having doing at least 1 point of HP damage to it. And then you get the choice. Opening Gambit, which is where you get the striking difference from every other class except maybe Enchanter, where you get to use the unique mechanic of Pursuit in this game. Pursuit, if you haven't watched the other videos, is a mechanic in which you debuff the enemy with a pursuit variable, and that variable is the amount of direct, well, not direct, but penetrating damage you'll do to a target if you land a successful attack on an enemy with that debuff applied. So it might not be instant damage, but the next time you do damage to it, it can trigger that damage that will then be applied on that turn. And with Opening Gambit, you can add up to 7 Pursuit stacks. Now, there's also other classes that scale really well with Pursuit. So if you have a monk in your party, you might find that a Swashbuckler would do very well for your group, considering that both have abilities that can stack Pursuit and also activate Pursuit without actually getting rid of the stacks. The secondary half of Pursuit is, once it's activated, it's gone, and it takes the highest Pursuit value before it goes to the lower ones. So while you might have many stacks of Pursuit on one target, the highest one will take effect first. Pretty useful if you ask me. Now, Dance Macabre, in comparison to Opening Gambit, is kind of a letdown. It's very generic, does cost less points overall, which can be seen as a benefit in many cases where builds become very point heavy. And in Swashbuckler's case, you do tend to seem to want to spend a bit of points everywhere. It has a bit of how do I say, not like a jack of all feel, but a very varied play style in which you could be doing one of many things. Now, Opening Gambit is an instant, while Dance is a damage roll, which you're going to end up having a lot of damage roll abilities anyway, but not having to do damage to activate Opening Gambit is actually very useful. They both give the same amount of hate, which can be a blessing and a curse in this instance. There's actually a build of Swashbuckler that isn't too bad taking hate. I'll probably go into that a bit later. Opening Gambit actually has a range of weapon, meaning that you could also swap to a ranged weapon and then apply it amongst as many characters within that range as possible. Say your ranged weapon is a thrown. I think the max thrown weapon is probably about 4 squares. Anywhere 4 squares away from you, you can apply some pursuit stacks. Maybe 3 on the boss and then 2 on his underlings, which could effectively turn the tides of battle next turn or that same round, depending on your initiative. Well, if you look at Dance Macabre, it's just not as good as the Assassins or even the Sorcerer's version. The Sorcerer has a very similar version. The Assassin has Assassinate, which is a times 7 bonus by itself. The Swashbuckler one is only a 5. And when you're talking about multiplicative bonuses, that's actually a big deal. And it only gets bigger as you grow in levels. Thankfully, the Log Horizon system doesn't penalize you for taking this at first, and you can actually swap it up in between sessions. There's a whole reorganization chart right here, in case you ever wanted to do that. Alright, let's start talking about the different builds. So, one of the builds that I was always had on my mind is a Pursuit build, mostly because of Opening Gambit. So, you just scroll down and you look at the different things that do that, trigger Pursuit, or have to do with it, right? So, one of the first things that catches a person's mind is Dual Bet. It's a dual wield, melee build, only 2 hate. That's very generous considering most average tanks can only get rid of 2 hate a turn. So if you go with, say, this kind of build, you could also pick up the different talents that reduce people's hate, or some of the other things that have going on here. Healer might be able to help out too. And then you're able to do all this pursuit stuff at the same time. So this allows you to make basically what is 2 accuracy checks against their evasion. And if they fail, you get to do more damage, which is direct damage. Direct damage is extremely useful. Only one thing will stop direct damage, and that's a barrier. Most bosses don't have that. And it also triggers Pursuit, which is penetrating. Almost as good as direct damage. Down here, you see Early Thrust as a minor. Target takes Pursuit. Range of weapon. Just like Opening Gambit. Not a minor, but still range of weapon. So if you're intent on having multiple weapons in your inventory, you could do a little bit of weapon swap shenanigans and go ahead and put Pursuit on everything. This one only puts 1 stack of Pursuit, but for the cost of a minor, can't miss. And you can put up to 20 on it. Up here, your Pursuit rating only goes up if you level up. So it's 20, but it's still higher than this. Next thing to look at would probably be something like Break Trigger. You trigger all the Pursuit stacks on your attack rather than just one. So this is on a damage roll. 8-1 and once per scene. So probably if you're using this, you're using it at the same time as, say, an Opening Gambit or maybe a Monk's move. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Let's see. Here we are. Orion Delay Blow. The Monk's Instant. They can make them take 3 stacks of Pursuit. So you're probably either going to use it on this, which is Pursuit 10 by the way, nothing to sneeze at, for 3 stacks. Or you can use it on your own move, which is only a once per scene as well. So, since both of them are once per scenes, you're probably going to use them in conjunction with each other a lot. Now, you've also got Chase Mastery, which increases the rating of your pursuit by 15 after you hit 5 points in this. So, instead of 20, you're now doing 35 pursuit right here. Now you're going to do 35 pursuit. And up here, that 7 goes up to 22. And then the 24 would obviously go up even higher to 39. Now, bosses generally have hundreds of health with really, really high resistances and defenses. So being able to do this much penetrating damage is actually super valuable as a boss nuker. So you're going to find out that this build is actually super good. In fact, you keep going down, you'll find way more things that have to do with pursuit. So we'll go down here to Bloodletter. You give physical damage, blah blah blah, that's the damage portion. And then the number of pursuit activated by this attack is SR plus 1. So you get to hit more than 1. And then if you crit with this ability, which means you get 2 6s on your accuracy roll, minimum of 2, which by the time you get something like this, you might end up with tons of accuracy dice, including the one they actually give you in this ability. On top of everything else, they give you another one. You will very likely not cancel the pursuit and keep that huge plus 39 bonus that might be on the boss. And it's a sword ability, and you're probably going to be using dual swords here. So, yeah, this is actually a very, very amazing ability to go with it. This is probably what you'll be using most of the time if it's single target attacks only. Over here, you have Early Thrust 2, which is an upgrade to the first Early Thrust, and this one actually gives Pursuit int mod value. Now, here's where you start thinking about the stats of your build, right? So if we look over here, I have a little token up for the Swashbuckler. And if you're a rank 1 Swashbuckler, you can see that you start with 3 strength, 4 dex, 2 power, and 1 int. Well, that's skill scaled off of our int mod value, which is currently 0. So if you're going for a pursuit build, maybe you want to spend those points into that intelligence and get it up. So you have 5 points that you can put any way you want, and they can't go above 7. If you're a human, you get 2 more bonus points you can put in any 2 different stats. So we could just dump all 5 into int. That'll get us a 6, which is a mod value of 2. And let's just go to max rank just to see what it ends up at max rank. 11. That's pretty good. So, oh, and there's also like training, which would add like another 3 on top of this, so it'd become 8. So you can get up to like 12. Depending on the race you pick, you could increase the int by like 2 to 3. So you could probably get it up to 10, so maybe around 14, possibly. So you're looking at 14 plus, so that's, hold on, that's int times SR. And then I'm guessing that is directly added onto by that pursuit increaser. So let me just crack out the calculator here for you guys. Let's just go with 14 times 3. It's 42. Gotta scroll up here. Chase Mastery. Increase the rating of pursuit you apply by plus 15. So you're applying 57 pursuit with early thrust 2 at that point. That's a lot. And if you don't get rid of it with Bloodletter, you have a reusable 57 on the target. And here's where I gotta talk about the one thing that kind of sucks about Pursuit. Pursuit doesn't really care who activates it. So if you put it on the target and you're not able to immediately work with it, your friends could accidentally activate it. And it really sucks when you've built up that huge stack of pursuit on the target only for it to get wasted by one of your friends, and it's not you activating it when you or even the monk who has an ability like this can make use of it without triggering it. And I don't really know how I feel about it. On one hand, it's nice that your friends can enjoy that big damage. On the other hand, it kind of sucks if it gets wasted. Down here we have an ability on a timing move, which also works with pursuit. So this is actually super good as well. And it gives direct damage, which is amazing, automatic, so you don't have to roll for it, of strength base value to the target. Now, that's a big number, right? Our base value of strength right now is 32, and we built for intelligence, remember, to increase that pursuit rating. You could do the same and build for strength and probably get around 14 to 15 strength, maybe even 16 if you're really pushing it for the racials, and do that much direct damage. Doesn't cost any hate, and there's no limit, so you can do it as much as you want on the move. Now, if you put points into it, you can go ahead and move around, which is really nice as well, so you don't actually lose the move. Now, this does activate Pursuit as well. This can be good and bad. Like I said earlier, if you want to save it with Bloodletter, you can reuse it, but sometimes if you're, not able to save it because of your party members, maybe sometimes it's just better to pop it and get it over with. A lot of these are ranged weapon, which means that you could use this with any weapon that has a longer range, as long as it doesn't have a preceding tag in the top here. So this says sword, so hopefully your ranged weapon of a sword has a longer range than normal. You might be able to enchant it or find a special variant that has that increased range. Alright, now there's only a couple more things to talk about here, which I think are these last two abilities. Flash Edge style is very much a style for dual wielding, and it increases your total attack power, and when Pursuit is activated, you can give direct damage to a target nearby. This is actually super useful if you're ever fighting anything ever, because usually in this game, regular hard mobs, excuse me, regular hard mobs are accompanied by mobs. Mobs are usually weaker defensively, but also still pretty strong on their own. And being able to attack multiple targets without taking more hate is always awesome. Now, the last ability really here is Pickpocket. There's a very cool ability in Pickpocket. You might think this would be an assassin thing, but assassins don't really seem to care about the loot that much. But when it comes to pirating, they are all about the loot. So here, it's based on your operate score. So there's a couple of abilities here that want you to get your operate score higher. One of them is fingering, which allows you to get +2 dice to that, and you can also take a general skill that increases that even more. It's based off of your dex, so you might as well get that high as well. Now, basically, when you kill an enemy, it has a chance to drop an item. And the way you usually determine that item is you roll for it. Or the DM or GM rolls for it, and they roll a 1d6. And depending on the result of that die, you get a piece of loot from that enemy's drop table. Now, the rarity is usually the higher the number, the better the item. Sometimes it's a core material, sometimes it's a magic catalyst, but normally you only get one of those because it's per enemy you killed. Now, obviously, according to this, you can get an extra one of those. That's extremely useful. So, in addition, if it crits, you get 2 different types of items. The more items you get, the stronger you're going to get in this game. In a similar vein of like the tanks are able to take more bag space to take more things, more loot from the instances or dungeons or whatever world exploring you guys tend to do. When you get these items, you can turn them into the special, really, really good items called named items. So you want to get these core materials and then make them into cool items that will help you guys out. You don't really get too many other items except for maybe the 7 or so that your GM might give you every so often. So being able to have agency over the items you get is super, super, super cool. So this is something I would always take as a swashbuckler. Now, there's 2 other sort of builds, I like to call them, that I like to point out. One of them is more of a support build. Well, technically, they're both more of a support build. Well, as I'm scrolling down here, you might have noticed that there's actually abilities that allow you to take damage for your friends. So, in that vein, there's actually sort of a off-tank role you can take as a swashbuckler, which is pretty useful, and you still get, the higher chance to hit and the more damage than a tank usually does, which is awesome. So the first one that really shows this off is Takeover. So before the damage hits, once per round, which means you can use this often, to a person that's standing in your area, and you have to have a shield. So during the damage apply step, you would receive the expected HP damage that a target other than yourself would have received. So what that means is, after that target has basically done the calculations for their defenses, right? So let's check out. Let's see here. This guy was so this guy made himself a samurai, right? He has 20 physical defense, right? So let's say an attack of 40 physical was coming in at him, right? He doesn't have any barrier, nothing like that. So the 40 would get cut in half by the 20 here. And so he would take 20 HP damage. But instead of taking that, let's say the swashbuckler took that damage instead, right? Alright, so you receive the HP damage that a target other than yourself would have received, and the target receives no damage. So this would go directly through to your HP, and you can only use this once in response to any given attack. So once per round is the only time you can use this. So still, that's really useful. Alright. Now, other thing you got here is Shield Striker style. So you get an attack power bonus when you're equipped with a shield. Pretty simple. Just more damage for wearing a shield. Here's one. Swashbuckler. Have a shield. Use it on setup. Gets you a hate. When you're using this sort of off-tank setup, hate's not really that big of a negative if you're building a lot more defensively. In this case, you actually gain a barrier. Barriers are very hard to make unless you're a Kanagi. So this is amazing. Barriers can negate direct damage and penetrating. Barriers are the only thing that are able to negate direct damage. Only other thing able to negate penetrating is a cancel effect. So this says its strength is equal to one shield that you're equipped with, and its physical to strength times 2. So if you're looking at shields, you gain a barrier of 6 with a rank 1 buckler. It's actually pretty good. And it's only 1 hate. This one has a special thing at the bottom for shield users, where this allows you to subtract target's hate by 1. And you can only use this on allies. And if you have a haste ability popped on you, say by a Kanagi, I think there's another class that allows you to do that, to have like multiple minor abilities in a turn, then you can use this more than once in the same main process. So you can hit up like that guy, he can have -1 hate, that guy can have -1 hate. But in addition, if you take 1 hate as a cost, you can change the range from 2 squares to 4 squares, and if you're equipped with a shield, you can further subtract -1 from the target's hate. So that's -2 hate total. That's amazing. It's like, you're -1 hate. I mean, you're -2 hate. You're -2 hate from super far away. 4 range is super far away. Alright. Now, let's see. There's another sort of hate minusing ability here called Stormheart, but it's with a 2-hander, not a shield. So, again, you can only target other allies with the skill, and at the end of this main process, you may lower the target's hate. Declining hate is equal to the number of enemies who were damaged during your main process with your weapon attack. So, it's also on a minor, right? And you can only target 1 guy with this, right? So, it's not as useful as discard, but it's still pretty useful if you want to go for a more damage build, but you also don't want to give up the support of reducing your team's hate, which is a big deal. The more hate you can get rid of, the more damage they can do without having to worry about getting one-shot by an enemy that turns around to smack them for pulling aggro. Alright. You can use this in combination with, say, a whirlwind or something, which can hit tons of enemies. Area P. This can hit tons of enemies, and then you can then use that with it. Or you can even use Street Bet, which is a line 2. It's a ranged attack, so it's going to hit from a range. Multiple darts is also a ranged attack. So somehow you would have to do a weapon swap in between there and there. Let me see. There was another line ability, I think. If it's a range attack, it's probably not going to work because you'd have to have some sort of ability to swap weapons without spending your minor. No, I don't see it. Probably just me reading too fast and I saw that. Alright. Seal tags are actually super useful, by the way. So if you're going with the dual wield build, using a seal tag is amazing because it just makes them not able to get rid of like any of their debuffs. Let's see here. You can actually still use a lot of these abilities even with a shield. Oh, here's one. Boomerang Saucer. It's basically the Captain America shield. During this main process, you can add a throwing tag to one shield you equip and use it for an attack as a weapon of range 2 squares that can be used for a ranged attack possible. So there's abilities up here that Street Bet, range attack, you could then use your shield for it, and it's a target line 2. So that means anybody within 2 squares. So 2 squares, 2 squares, 2 squares, 2 squares, 2 squares. So anybody within those 2 squares, you'll be able to hit with your shield. And multiple darts, even though it says darts and range attack, you can still use it with your shield, and the target will take afflicted. So with this ability, you're not really looking at the damage so much as that debuff. That debuff is really nice. So you don't only really put 1 point into this. You'd probably put more points into this because it's only a damage ability. It's 5 dice, and it's only physical damage, but it is AoE, which is nice. Alright, so the shield build can go close range or long range, which is really cool. And it has the dual benefit of lowering your party's hate, just like a tank would, and also doing tons of damage. It's really, really good. Alright. Let's see here. That's Boomerang Saucer. So yeah. You get another bonus to attack power equal to defense of the shield, so that's really cool. Similar to, where is it? Shield Striker style. You get an attack power bonus because you're wearing a shield. So that's 2 of them right there. That one's for more of a one-handed build, but you can use this creatively. So if you were to put like your weapon away and have one hand empty, then you could use this, and it's only 1 point, so you could probably use this pretty creatively. Basically, it just does direct damage equal to your attack power. This is a pretty interesting move, but it's not really what we're looking for. In Shield Striker Style 2, acquired with character rank 11 or higher. The damage you take over with cover and takeover is minus skill rank times 8. And then your attack power is equal to strength mod value bonus, so that's really good. And the shield you're equipped with is int mod value plus physical defense, another int mod value bonus. So there's a lot of int mod bonuses and strength mod bonuses you get in Swashbuckler. Now, some general abilities, other than the takeover ability as part of the Swashbuckler, is something like cover. Let me see if I can find it here. Is it in basic? No, maybe it was protect. Cover and takeover. Probably would be faster just to like control copy this or like control F. Here's takeover. I gotta sneeze. Expert mic muting skills. Alright. Oh, that's basically the off-tank build. The third one is sort of that two-hander build that I was talking about, where it's also more or less just about doing damage while lowering out everybody's hate. It's not very unique, but basically you have Stormheart here, which is the two-hander, and then down here you have Highlander style, where you basically declare standby a lot, and you get +1 to your evasion and resistance checks, and you can also get -1 of your own hate. So it's more of a manage your hate and then manage everybody else's hate sort of dealio. And you would use that ability to -1 hate to allow things like, where is it? Whirlwind and things like Street Bet to sort of be viable. Now, Street Bet is still a ranged ability, so you would have to figure that out. Effective when you're only equipped with two-hander weapons, so declare standby to get the -1 hate, swap to ranged weapon, shoot it, and then your next turn swap back to your weapon and then declare standby again maybe. It would be barely wonky, probably not the most fun, but I can definitely recommend those two earlier builds, the shield build and the dual wield build, but I'm sure there's tons of other things available here. If you wanted to go like a one-hand build with, say, Weapon Bash or something, probably work out really well for you. Weapon Bash is a common ability that's just really good. Alright, well, that's the Swashbuckler, or at least what I have to say about it. Again, I'm trying not to make a meta or like a cookie cutter build here. These are just two builds that have been pretty obvious to my eyes. I didn't deep dive into the skills or nothing, and I didn't really plan on going too deep into sort of the mechanics of the game, but I know people have been asking about like the Swashbuckler, so I wanted to do this. Um, I might go into the other classes and do those too, but my track record on getting things out in time isn't really the best, so we'll see about that. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for checking up. I know I've been dead. I do have a Discord, which I think I'll be linking in the description. It's the one I used for my D&D shenanigans, and it's also the one I used for my World of Warcraft guild back on my private server days. So I think I'll just repurpose that into sort of a me channel. Uh, so yeah, check me out if you want to talk. Hit up the Discord or my YouTube. I do actually read the comments and everything, even if I don't reply. Uh, yeah, thanks for supporting me. Peace out.